Welcome to Rat Girls Podcast. I'm Abigail Jensen, and I'm so excited because today we are joined by Dr. Laurie Mintz, the author of Becoming Cliterate. She is a speaker, author, therapist who is devoted to helping people have satisfying sex lives. Laurie, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited you're here, and I'm so sad that I missed you when you were at Mizzou.
I know. We totally we're like ships passing without even knowing it. Yeah.
Yeah, we were one year from seeing each other, and I took like a good amount of like sex education classes, so I probably would have been in your class.
Yeah. Well, probably not, because when I was at Mizzou, I taught only grad students.
Gotcha.
So it wasn't until I moved to Florida that I taught undergrads sex psychology of human sexuality. I taught like therapy classes. So you wouldn't have been in them, but I'm just sad I missed you on campus.
I know. Well, is there anything you miss about Columbia, Missouri campus? Any of the food?
You know, it's so funny because I have two adult daughters, and they were just together over the weekend, and we were reminiscing and we were talking. I miss Murray's
Oh.
and I miss Caldy's coffee shop.
Yeah, that's great.
Those were the two big ones. Did you ever have coffee there or eat at Murray?
Oh, I had coffee at Caldy's all the time. It was super cozy, which I love. But I don't know if I'm remembering Murray's. Was it a bar?
Like a bar restaurant. Yeah, it was
Okay.
kind of farther from campus, and it was not really a college student hangout, but it was my favorite restaurant. If you ever go back, you have to have sounds weird, but their fried green peppers covered with powdered sugar.
Oh my God. That is a Midwest food. That is my culture. That sounds delicious. I was thinking the other day how I miss Shakespeare's pizza and Gumby's because we just ordered pizza and I was like, in LA, we're just not doing it quite as right.
Yeah, no, Shakespeare's I still have some mugs, like some plastic cups from the soda at Shakespeare's. I could go get one and have a sip right now. Yeah, yeah,
Display it. No, that
yeah.
was such a good time. And so when you wrote Becoming Cliterate, because you talk about your students in your classroom, was any of that about your students at Mizzou?
No, it was all my students at University of Florida.
Okay, gotcha. And I mean, your book is so incredible and is really like, it's fun and informative and just such a good manual to help women or people with a vulva discover how to orgasm.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad you think so. I mean, that's why I wrote it, exactly, to help women and other people with vulvas have sexual pleasure. So thank you.
Well, and it's so funny. I feel like your influence is like so vast because of all the different like sex positive accounts I follow on my Instagram. So many refer back to your book. Like so many of them, that's where their info is coming from. You like laid the groundwork that people are excited to be like basically disciples of the clit and go around and talk about it.
Well, the more people talking about the clit, the better. So that's great.
100%. And our main cheese of the week is the pleasure gap, which you start your book off with talking about the pleasure gap. So for those who don't know, what is the pleasure gap?
So the pleasure gap is like actually a consistent finding in research across 30 years. And I'm going to use the term women and men because it mostly pertains to cisgender women and men. I'm not trying to erase anyone. I'm just trying to tell you the state of the research, that when cisgender women and men get it on, the women are having way, way fewer orgasms than the men. Just to like a few stats in hookup sex, it's really abysmal. It's like 65% of men versus 10% of women. And then it gets smaller in relationships. It's like 95 to 65. But in all contexts, women have fewer orgasms than men during sexual encounters.
Which just doesn't seem fair.
No, and it's not about our bodies either. It's about the way we do heterosexual sex.
Yeah. So what are the contributing factors to the pleasure gap?
Well, there's so many, but the biggest one is the way we do heterosexual sex, even the words we use. So, like, just to show you it's not women's bodies, let me tell you that when women are alone, 95% orgasm easily and within minutes. So, it's not our bodies. When women, and this study came out after Becoming Cliterate, and it is my favorite to prove the point that it's not our bodies, when bisexual women were studied who hooked up with women and men, so same woman, same body, when their first time hookup partner was a woman, they orgasmed 65% of the time. When with a man, 7% of the time.
Wow. Why are we hooking up with men?
Exactly. So it's all about like heterosexual sex revolves around male pleasure.
Mhm.
Penetration is even, we use the word sex and intercourse as if they're the same. Like it revolves all around the penis going in the vagina. And that's not how women orgasm. And that is the main, there's others, but that's the biggest contributor to the pleasure gap.
Well, you speak in the book about representation in media, which
Yeah.
I thought was so true because we we rarely see eating out represented. We see like three pumps of penetrative sex, and then both people come at the same time.
Right. And that's what women think should happen to them. And that's what men think they need to do. And like that is so far from the truth. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with media sex scenes that are, you know, or porn or whatever, except for the fact that we're not, well, there's a lot wrong with them. But what I mean is I'm not anti-porn, but I am anti people using that as a model for sex.
Yeah. Is what how are we meant to combat the like media aspect of it? Because it's so hard when you see these things and then kids are, teens are growing up thinking this is how you're meant to have sex.
Yeah, it's if we had better sex ed, we could combat it.
Mhm.
I mean, but we don't, you know. I mean, we don't, women never even hear about their clitoris in sex ed. Like, sex ed is horrible. Like, the girls go in one room and hear about periods, the boys go in another room and hear about ejaculation. So, not the same thing, you know. So,
Totally.
yeah, so we need better sex ed. And if in the absence of that, we need parents, but talking to kids, but parents never had good sex ed. So, you know, we combat it with podcasts like this. We combat it with social media. Like that's
Yeah.
the way right now.
Yeah, so when you're like talking about the pleasure gap, I have to imagine the clit is like the biggest
Yeah.
thing you're talking about. Have you like in your classes, have you seen how that like talking and sharing about the clit has like changed people's relationship to pleasure?
Absolutely. And this is really fun. Somebody even did a scientific study on my class. Like they did a before and
Cool.
after. What were people's experiences with orgasm before the class and after? They were having way more orgasms after because I talk a lot. I talk about vibrators. I talk about the clit. I talk about sexual communication, all of that. It's really,
Mhm.
it is a class, but it's also like a self-help kind of thing, you know?
I bet you have people like lining up to take your class after that study.
It's kind of a popular class, yeah. And for so many, it's the first sex ed they've ever had. And I tell the students on the first day, this class is not about learning about sex only, it's about unlearning all the false things you've learned so far.
Mm. And so besides like penetration, what are these other false things that they're having to unlearn?
They're having to unlearn, well, the men are having to unlearn like that they need a big penis and they need to last long and thrust hard, which goes hand in hand with that.
Yeah.
I'm in the South, right? So a lot of people are having to unlearn religious messages that
Mm.
sex itself before marriage is a sin, you know, or that, you know, being attracted to and having sex with someone of the same sex is a, you know, terrible sin.
Yeah.
Um, you know, body image stuff. The one I really have trouble having people unlearn is that everybody has to have no hair on their vulva.
Yeah.
That's the one. It's so interesting. I'd be really curious your thoughts. Like, I usually teach, like, this is what the media says, this is what
Mhm.
research says, and people change their behavior. People like, then I teach, like, here's what doctors say about pubic hair. And then I say, are you going to change your mind or your behaviors after this lecture? Every other lecture, it's a yes. I'm going to call the vulva. I'm going to get a vibrator. This is one like, no, still going to do the same thing.
It's so funny you bring this up because I was literally gonna post a video later today about how people are saying it's a big bush summer, but I got laser hair removal 10 years ago. And so I'm, like, sad I'm missing out.
I didn't know it was a big bush summer.
The girls are saying it's a big bush summer, which I think whatever people wanna do with their body hair is so amazing, and it's funny, when I got my laser hair removal, my mom said at one point, she was like, one day your vulva might be, like, a little different looking and you might want that hair there, like, to go just as a protection method, and I was like, "You don't know what you're talking about, mom," and here I am now being like, "Damn."
Oh, yeah. Well, it's so interesting, right? Because if you think about it, even taking a step back, it's like our vulvas go through fashion trends. Like, that's crazy,
Totally. So
right?
crazy. And it should just be like users' choice, users' preference. But it is funny when I have talked about on my page, like Big Bush, because there's a trend of women saying they're done with shaving, it's too much work, like they just want their bush. And when I mention that on my page and see like what people think, a lot of women have come forward and said they used to get chronic BV infections, and ever since they like let their bush come back, that totally went away.
Well, that's what doctors say.
Yeah.
That's that's what doctors say, that like there's more infections. Like, forget about the nicks from shaving that get infected, or the waxing pain, or the infections from that, but that the hair is there for a protective reason. And doctors are saying you just trim it with the scissors. You can make it less bushy, but
Yeah.
don't remove it all. But
Right.
again, if people want to remove it, that is their choice. But I just wish that people were making a choice informed by science. That's my whole thing
Totally.
about sex. Like, let me tell you what the science says, and then you can make an informed choice. But nobody gets science based sex ed. And that's what I really want to give people, especially women.
100%. Well, and it feels like that's such a big part of that is porn and media, where that switch happened, where it had to be like a bald vulva, and that's really influenced by that.
Everything is so influenced by media and porn. So many of the things I see people struggle with are so influenced by media. I feel like telling you a crazy story. I was talking to a reporter, is that okay?
I
About
love
media.
it.
So I was talking to a reporter who was writing about a show. I can't remember what show. And she said, she wanted me to analyze how hot this scene was and how everybody was talking about it. And I said, I'm not going to tell you that I'm in favor of it. Yeah, it's a hot scene, but she orgasms, like you were talking about, in like 2 seconds from intercourse with no warm up. I'm like, it's unrealistic. And the reporter said, well, you have to understand, when we film a sex scene, we have like 5 to 10 seconds to film it. So we have to show that. And I said, well, that doesn't convince me, because there's a lot of things you can show in 5 to 10 seconds that are more realistic, you know?
Totally. Yeah, I'm curious about why they have 5 to 10 seconds to film it.
Yeah, this is like on mainstream TV, I think. They don't want,
Okay.
like, yeah. But then show someone going down on someone, show them
Right.
getting under the sheets. Like, there's a lot you can film besides thrusting.
Show
Yeah.
someone putting on a condom. I'm so frustrated when I watch these shows and no one's using condoms.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
It's interesting because I think of like the mainstream media and porn as like influencing the way women think about their bodies and prioritizing penetration. But I'm such a romantasy fan. I like read the, the fairy smut they call it, like the Court of Thorns and Roses and Fourth Wing. Um, and these books are taking place in, you know, alternate timelines, but mainly the past, or like times where you have to imagine like body hair is not being taken care of, but there's never a single mention of a bush. Like it's kind of like you could guess if they have a bush or not. Like it's never described as bush or no bush. And it's just interesting that like even in these books written by women for women, the discussion isn't happening there.
Right. That is so interesting. Yeah, because it's like, I really think like the way we view women's bodies and women's sexuality and the words we use, it's the most insidious form, or one of the most
Mhm.
insidious forms of sexism, because we all just accept it as the way it is, natural, you know?
Yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
that's why I love your section of the book on like one of the ways to close the pleasure gap is calling the vulva a vulva instead of a vagina, because that's been picked up by like the zeitgeist is calling the vulva a vagina, and that totally like throws off where people think sex should be happening.
Exactly, like the words matter. By calling our genitals a vagina, we are, and I say this in the book, and I can't say it enough, we're calling our genitals by the part that's more useful to men sexually than to women themselves.
Wild. It, and your class like really resonates with that when you bring that up.
Yes, then they all are like, all but maybe one or two are going to start calling it vulva. And one of the things I also say is, I don't want to hear you using the word sex as synonymous with intercourse. The
Mhm.
word foreplay is banned from this class, because that implies it's just a lead up to the most important act.
Totally. I've even gotten in like because I've had my husband on the podcast before for like the male perspective. Sometimes, occasionally, I let the men in and say what they want to say, and I've gotten into an argument, but like with him before about like virginity and like what losing like one. It's like the term virginity is like we don't need it. We don't need to claim people as virgins or not virgins. Like that's so old school, but like he just is penetration is so ingrained in him that he couldn't even think of like two women having sex. Like what would that be like losing their virginity to each other?
Yeah, exactly. And it's all it's all about penetration again, and it's like you're losing something. They call it making your sexual debut in more sex positive countries,
Yeah.
but it's still about penetration.
Yeah.
So I like to think of virginity as the first time you have either an orgasm or a pleasurable sexual encounter with another human being. It's a much more inclusive definition.
And by those standards, I would have been like a virgin until so late, like until like 30 probably, that or not pleasure wise, but orgasm wise, because it was so ingrained in me having sex with people for validation instead of my own pleasure.
And so many women, that's what they're taught, that it's more important to please someone than to feel pleased. Yeah.
And is that another big part of the pleasure gap? Like the way women are taught to just move throughout society?
100%. That it's, if he's happy, I'm happy. It's about him. I want validation. And also body image, just
Mm,
like that is a huge one. You can't have an orgasm when you're holding your stomach in. And I know that from my own experience in college, like you cannot have an orgasm when you're worried about how your body looks.
total. How do we combat that? Like
That one's tough. If we could find an answer to that on this podcast, we would solve a lot of problems. But that's
100%.
media-based too, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's really I feel like I practice because that part of your book made so much sense to me. Like, you cannot have an orgasm when you're holding in your stomach, when you're thinking about how your stomach looks. So now when I like am with my partner and those body negative thoughts come through, I just like practice affirmations in the moment and be like, you look stunning right now, like you look like a goddess. And then it's so funny, the combo of that plus getting pleasured is like really will do something to your brain to just help you like feel so confident because you're in tune with your body and you're like saying good things to it while also like reaping the benefits of it.
I love that. I love that.
It's like full goddess mode. It's like, wow, like I'm taking up space in this moment and that's okay.
So you actually think the thought as you're getting
Mhm.
pleasured, like, I look like a goddess, or
Yeah,
I love that. Okay, I'm writing a new book. Can I like use that?
of course. Oh my God, I would be so honored.
Yeah, because I just wrote the section on affirmations. I'm going to include that.
Oh my God, well, it's so funny. I feel like it also just changes how I move about my day. Like after I have a moment like that where I'm so in tune to myself and so in tune to my body, there might be moments where I like second guess myself, like on a podcast talking to someone, or second guess myself, just in life. But I find that the confidence bleeds into the rest of my day, basically.
Yeah, that's amazing. And this is something that it reminds me of. I wrote Becoming Cliterate to empower women to orgasm, to get rid of the pleasure gap. But I have heard from many women something I didn't anticipate, but it makes sense that, we used to think like get empowered outside the bedroom and then, you can tell your partner what you want. But I've had so many women saying, since I'm empowered in the bedroom, I feel unstoppable and more confident outside of the bedroom.
Totally, because it's almost like a meditation where you're just so in tune with yourself and your body and so in the present moment. And then you can use that mindset outside of the bedroom.
Absolutely. I mean, you're really talking about embodiment and mindfulness, right? That you can be, if you are orgasming, you're so in the moment, you're so present. And that's something we rarely do.
Yeah, I don't even do it. I'm so bad. Like I speak on mindfulness and stuff, but when it comes to like meditation, it takes a lot for me to turn on like my Headspace app or my Calm app for some reason. But like as soon as it is also like hand in hand with my pleasure and orgasming, I'm like, hell yeah, like let's do
That's amazing. Yeah,
it.
I often tell people like my most mindful moment is having an orgasm. Like, yeah,
Would that also be a reason for the pleasure gap? Like, do women have more racing thoughts than men?
100%. And a lot of those thoughts are about our bodies. And for a certain age group, a lot of those thoughts are about to dos. Oops, I forgot to schedule the carpool.
Mhm.
Oops, I forgot to call the doctor for the kid. Because what else research tells us is that in a lot of this is a heterosexual problem. Because in heterosexual married couples, the woman, no matter, is usually the one who's running everything, the executive who has. And the in research by the American Psychological Association tells us women have more chronic stress than men. And that is a sex zapper, both in terms of desire and orgasm.
Totally. I mean, chronic stress is like the biggest one, I feel like one of the biggest blockers to getting in the mood.
100%. 100%. Yeah. I mean, and it's like we are all so stressed, and a lot of, and it's like you're too stressed to do it. It takes too long. You're too tired to do it. In the middle of it, it's like, oh shoot, I forgot to do this or that or the other. It's like none of that's very sexy.
Not at all. What have you found like from your classes and talking to people? Are there any ways that people are like blocking the blocker of stress, I guess?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of it. There's so many. That was like what my first book was about, was women who were so stressed that they weren't having any desire for sex. But like, first of all, part of it is the mindset of thinking of sex as something you do for you.
Mhm.
that it is self-care, it is a stress reliever, it is fun. Because so many stressed women start thinking of it as something else to check off their to-do list for someone else.
Yeah,
So it's all intertwined, right? Because if you to think of it like that, you actually have to experience it like that. So it's all so intertwined to say this is for me. And
right.
my orgasm is central to the experience, my pleasure is central to the experience and important.
Yeah, and you have to be having pleasurable sex to believe that too, I feel.
Exactly. Yeah. And sexual pain is another huge one.
Mm.
So many women are experiencing. I just did my social media video on that today. Like so many women are experiencing sexual pain and being told, "Oh, it's just part of it. It's just normal," or not saying anything. And, genitals aren't supposed to hurt and penetrative sex isn't supposed to hurt.
Totally. And you're not going to desire something that's causing you pain.
Exactly, exactly. And 30% of women say they had pain at their last instance of penetrative sex.
Wow.
Yeah.
And is the main cause behind that like dryness, or what would like lack of
It's
vaginal tenting basically?
if for it's you can do it by like generations really. For a huge number of younger people, it is due to not being aroused enough exactly before penetration and not using lube. Like the average amount of time college students spend fooling around before the penis goes in the vagina is 5 minutes.
Wow.
You know,
Wild.
and it takes 20 to 45 minutes for the vagina to lubricate, for the cervix to pull up and out of the way. But, so that's that. And many of us, lube is one of sex's best friends,
Mhm.
lubes and vibrators. So that's for the younger generation. As you get older, a lot of it is, well, then there's some medical causes that go undiagnosed, like endometriosis. Um, People who are partnered with someone who has a way big penis. And then there's something called the O nut you can use to shorten it. See, it's these all men are running around there thinking it has to be big, and women are like, it hurts if it's too big. It's just crazy. And then as we get older, like breastfeeding, menopause, our vaginas get drier, and there's
Yeah.
medicines for that, there's FDA approved treatments for that people don't even know about. And then of course there's like some trauma based reasons. There's so many reasons. I always tell people, use lube, be super aroused, and see if that doesn't help, and if not, see a doctor like who knows what they're
Yeah.
doing. There was a randomized clinical trial done of my book, which I know you read, which I'm so appreciative. And the big, like, people did become more orgasmic, more communicative. The biggest effect was a decrease in sexual pain. And I swear, I looked through the book. I don't use the word pain once.
Really? It's just because you taught people about the warm, like the that you need to be turned on?
Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Which isn't it funny that that's not like, I'm not funny, but it's just not taught. Like that's something that we should all know. It's one of our like biological processes, like, and sex ed doesn't even include that.
No, no, It's, yeah, exactly, exactly.
It's so funny. Your book is what inspired me to start talking to my girlfriends about like sex and seeing if they had orgasmed. And one of my friend's moms, when my friend then took it to her mom, because she was like so excited about talking about it in the info, her mom was like, "What's it called? The clitoris?" Like had never even heard this word.
Oh
And
my
it's like that's the state of our sex education.
Oh my gosh. Somebody asked me on a podcast the other day, why is the clitoris so important? And I said, that's like asking, why is the penis important?
Yeah.
They're the same organs, like, yet we don't even know that.
I don't think in my anatomy, like in my health classes in middle school and high school, that was ever like labeled an anatomy.
No. And guess what? They're not even going into a deep dive in it in medical school. That's the crazy thing.
Wow.
Yeah. How many times has a gynecologist examined your clitoris versus just go right to the,
Never.
yeah. Or if they do, they're not telling you about it. And they should be to
And
make
what
sure everything's fine.
yeah,
Yeah.
the examining it would just be like everything looks okay on the clit.
Yeah, there's actually Dr. Rachel Rubin, who's an amazing physician in the sexual medicine field. She discovered this thing called clitoral adhesions,
Okay.
where it's 75% of women who go to sexual medicine clinics, turns out they have them. It's the hood of the clitoris gets stuck to the glands, and they can be removed with very simple in-office procedures, and people become orgasmic, people have less pain. So like
Wow.
a lot of women will come to me and be like, I've seen all these sex therapists and I can't orgasm. And I'm like, well, what did you do? And they go through like lube, vibrators, this, that, mindfulness. And I'm like, you got to see a doctor. There might be something medical going on, you know?
To and, like, outside of this doctor you mentioned, though, are, like, normal gynos looking at that if you bring it up to them?
There's only like a handful. If you want to find a good sexual medicine physician, the International Society for the Study of Women's Sexual Health, ISWICH, they have a find a provider network, and those people know what they're doing.
Well, it's so wild because there's so many studies devoted to men coming and men staying hard and, um, their satisfaction, and then I it sounds like almost nothing for women.
Yeah, there was a study in that looked at how many times the word clitoris was used versus penis in medicine journals. And the word penis was like studies on the penis was like 600 times more than on the clitoris.
That's wild. It's something I love. I think you say this in the book, is like I love the thought that the clitoris's only purpose on the body is pleasure.
Yep.
And like as a way to think of that to combat shame anyone might have around religious shame because it's like God wouldn't have put this pleasure button basically like on your body like with the only purpose if it wasn't like you if you weren't meant to experience pleasure. um how do you see religious shame play into the pleasure gap?
Huge, huge. And I did tell a client that once, and she was very religious. And she said, "Ah, I get it. It's God's gift for me. I better use it." I was like, yes, but it's huge. I see so many women who were raised to in purity culture, or who were told like sex is bad, you're dirty, you're bad if you want it, and it's only okay in marriage. And then they get married and they can't just flip a switch. Okay, it's okay now. This thing that was so bad is now fine. Like our minds don't work like that, And just like women being, really in deep purity culture, women are responsible for men's desires. Like it's
Mm.
all women's fault. Everything's women's fault.
Cover your ankles or else the men are gonna go feral.
Exactly.
It's like my ankle truly okay like I didn't know I had that much power.
Yeah, and I think that's, like, underlies it, a real fear of women's power.
Wow, that's interesting. And like the patriarchal, that's not how you say that word. The patriarch just like enforcing these gender roles almost as a way to keep women without not holding on to their power.
I think so, yeah. Like,
Is
we're capable of multiple orgasms, we can have children, you know, it you know, it's like we're pretty powerful beings,
Mhm.
you know?
No,
Um
100%. And obviously everything we're talking about like the patriarchy plays into, but like how do you see the patriarchy affecting the pleasure gap as well?
The patriarchy is the reason for the pleasure gap.
It's the reason for all the bad things.
I mean, it is like men's, it's about, and see, that's why I really want to be clear. I don't blame individual men for the
Mhm.
pleasure gap at all. I'm heterosexual. I've been married to the same very cliterate man for almost 40 years, you know. I have son-in-laws I love. I have male friends. I'm not, you know, it's not men's fault, it's not women's fault. It is culture, and by culture I
Mhm.
mean the patriarchy. Because where else did the idea that women's are to please men, that sex is, that we call the sexual act that men orgasm with sex, and everything else just a lead up. Like, think about this. And I,
Mhm.
if we reversed patriarchy, right, if we were in a culture that overvalued women, we would call foreplay sex and intercourse post play.
Wow. Don't tempt me with a good time. That it's so true. It's and that's another one that's hard because even when you're talking to your friends about or just people online about foreplay or anyone, like it's that's one that you really have to break down for people. It's not like a quick explanation, but the way you just put it was so succinct and like really makes sense right away.
Yeah, yeah, because foreplay is how women orgasm: oral sex, vibrator stimulation, you know, manual stimulation.
Well, and I love in the book that you talk about different like scenarios of like she comes first, he comes first. Like you have these different like scenes basically because yeah, it's so rare that two people are going to come at the same time.
And it's also, you're cheating yourself by doing that. You're not getting to like fully immerse in your own pleasure, nor are you giving yourself the joy of experiencing your partner's pleasure. Like,
Yeah.
one of the reason women who have sex with women have more orgasms, and science tells us about 8 reasons for that. There, none of them are about who you're having sex with. It's all about behaviors and attitudes. But one of them is that there's more turn taking.
Cool. Oh, I
Yeah.
love that. What are some of the others? I'm so curious.
More clitoral stimulation, more use of vibrators, more did I okay, more clitoral stimulation, more use of vibrators, more sexual communication, more varied sex acts, um, the more taking more time and not rushing, and the attitude, there's an attitude of orgasm centrality that
Love
plays a
that.
part. My orgasm is central to this experience. And that was 7. I can't remember the 8th. Sorry.
No, that's I'm so impressed that you like were able to name those off the top of your head and it is so interesting to know because you hear the stats all the time that if like women are having more orgasms with other women and just from like an instinctual like place you're like oh yeah that makes sense you're like which is so funny that you're like right away every woman you tell that to is like oh yeah which is just shows.
Yeah, and it's not because both people have a click, because everybody needs something different. That's about the communication. And I just thought of the 8th. It's, these are very scientific words, but I still love it. No coital imperative,
Ooh.
meaning coitus, right, which is intercourse. There is no like thing where that is the most, you have to have that as part of the act.
Oh, interesting. I love that. It's like well, that's I had Dan Savage on in October and he was saying like men get sad that you know they want more sex. They don't understand and this is bad words version. I'm summarizing what he said. They don't understand why they're having not having more sex. And he's like if they started labeling other things as sex, they'd realize that they could be having way more of it.
Exactly. Exactly.
If
That
the
that
goal isn't penetration but instead orgasming.
exactly. And the goal is like pleasure, even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, such a big part of your book and a big reason I have to imagine for the pleasure gap. You've touched on it, but is communication. How does that play into everything?
Well, communication, this, I'm going to use one of my clients' words after I taught her communication, and I just love this. She said, communication is the bedrock to make your bed rock.
That's awesome.
Like in that, and what does science tell us? Couples who talk about sex have better sex. Nobody can guess what you want. You have to learn to talk about sex outside of the bedroom, during a sexual encounter, out after. I mean, sexual communication is really it is the bedrock of good sex.
Yeah, I wonder why that is a fantasy to have no communication. Because it in my romantasy books I read, like that is the the high fae that you're hooking up with, which is like the 500-year-old fairy man. You're like, they know exactly where to touch on your body without, asking you a single question about yourself. I wonder why that's considered sexier in a lot of instances than just like being like, do you like this?
Yeah, I think that's media again.
Hmm.
Think of any media scene that you've ever seen where they actually talked.
Yeah.
I once had a client, was telling them about sexual communication, and she goes, I thought it was against the rules. And I was like, whose rules? She was
Yeah.
like, I just thought it was against the rules because I've never seen it.
Wow. And
Yeah.
so for people who've never like endeavored into sexual communication, where do they start?
Outside of the bedroom,
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
know, like start to talk about it like you talk about what's your favorite restaurant, like we did. Like, oh, you've never been to Murray's? You got to try this.
Yeah, that's great. Talk about it like it's a menu. Like, and what should you try on this menu?
Yeah. What restaurant do you want to go to? What's your favorite item? Have you ever thought about trying this?
Interesting. I love that you talk about how everyone's nerves are, different on their clit because that just shows that every new partner you have to talk to them about it because their body's actually literally different.
Exactly. And that's also why it is no less sex if you touch yourself during a sexual encounter.
Mhm.
Use the vibrator on your clit while he touches your breast. Use the vibrator on your clit during penetration. Like you get that immediate sensory feedback. It's no less sex.
Totally. What do you say to the people that like feel like they wish they could come without the vibrator?
Okay.
Because I
First of
get
all,
that so much.
I have so much to say about that. Oh, this is like my favorite topic. You might never get me to be quiet here. Um, did you know that we have special corpuscles on our vulva that respond just to vibration?
Cool.
They're called Krauss corpuscles. If you take a vibrator up here, you'll hardly feel it. Take
Wow.
it to your finger, you'll feel it more. They're on the penis and the vulva. So it is a biological reason that we respond to vibration. So you're denying yourself, I say to people, like you're denying yourself. Why is it that many women need it? Because our bodies have these special receptors.
Wow.
Yeah, fingers and tongues and penises don't vibrate.
That's crazy. I had no idea.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, and
And go
oh,
ahead.
sorry. Go ahead. You go ahead.
No, I mean, I could just go on. So please go ahead.
No, I love it. And I love that you make it very clear like whatever your most reliable way to orgasm is valid. Like I think that for some reason, okay, women get to the point where they can orgasm, but it includes using a vibrator. But then for some reason, they have shame around that. And it's like,
Yeah,
no, let yourself enjoy things.
exactly. And like that, I always like when I'm teaching women to orgasm and I say use a vibrator, and they say, oh, but what if then I always need it? I'm like, oh, then always use it. I don't say it quite so cavalier.
No, 100%. I think that's such I mean, you shared so much good information. And is there any like lasting thoughts about the pleasure gap that you'd want to share to people who are maybe struggling to close it in their everyday lives?
Pleasure is your human right,
Mhm.
and it's not frivolous. It's not it's not optional. Your life, here's what I'll share. There is a very high correlation or relationship between sexual satisfaction and life satisfaction. So have a happy life, have a happy sex life, have a happy life.
I love that. That's so amazing. And I'm so grateful for you and so grateful for your book. And so I'm just happy that you're like out there. It must feel good. You're out there like changing people's lives and introducing them to this new part of themselves that they get to unlock and experience something maybe they never knew they could.
Yeah, it's very gratifying, but I'm so grateful for your work. I mean, you are spreading this knowledge in huge ways. Huge, entertaining, funny, interesting ways. And I think making people laugh is such a great way to like get through to them too.
Oh my
That
God.
this is important.
Well, thank you so much, but it's literally all inspired by you and all inspired by like your book and Emily Nagoski's book. Like when I read them, they changed my life and I was like, let's tell everyone.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Just absolutely the best. And so now to get into send it to the sewers, we just talked about a lot of pleasure. This is kind of opposite, I guess. This is when we rant about something from the week, we send it to the sewers. Would you like me to send something first so you can see, or would you like to go first?
Yeah, why don't you go first? I think I know what I'm going to
Okay.
send, but I might get inspired by you.
Okay. I'm sending to the sewers, and I'm surprised I haven't done this yet before, but just reboots. I'm so tired of them. I just saw that they cast the new Harry Potter, and I was a big Harry Potter fan growing up. I don't, fuck with J.K. Rowling. She's not for me, but like I still love what Harry Potter was in my past life, and I'm just like not ready for there to be something new. I just don't understand why these studios can't come up with like new stories. I don't and I think there's fatigue around it too. I think we're tired and just like begging for the nostalgia starting to go away and we're starting to be like give me new content.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just also just I've sent her to the sewer before, but JK Rowling every day I'm like she says a new thing that I'm like you are a billionaire. Why are you spending your time on this?
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
I
Yeah. Um gosh, like oh my god, there's so many things I want to send to the sewer, but I guess I got sent in the mail. Like I get sent a lot of sex toys.
Oh yeah.
Okay. And I got sent, I mean, unsolicited from companies who want me to endorse them. I got sent a big rubber floppy dildo. I don't want it because, like, first of all, penetration. And second of all, for everybody, those sex toys need to be made of like good silicone. Those really floppy rubber ones hold germs and they have cancer causing chemicals in them.
Wow.
Yeah. So I want to send all the big plastic, floppy, like not hard plastic, but like rubbery. I want to send all the rubbery sex toys, especially the dildos, to the sewer.
I feel like you're definitely the wrong person to send a dildo to. Like, it's like, tell me they don't know anything about you, you know? Like,
Yeah.
you spent your life, you literally have a book called Becoming Cliterate, and they're like, let's give her the penetration toy.
Especially one with cancer causing chemicals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Is there any like is there like a vibe that you just like totally love? Like that you're like this is the one I tell everyone to start with?
Yeah. Lilo.
I
Lilo.
love them.
Yeah. And I think the one to start with is the Mia 2. It's like a little lip. It looks like a little lipstick container,
Yeah.
but it's real pin. Anyway, I love all their products and they're made of medical quality silicone, which means they don't harbor the germs or the chemicals that a lot of sex toys do.
Which is so important, especially if you don't have a bush to protect.
Exactly.
It all comes back to the bush.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the pod. It has been such a pleasure to talk to you, and I'm so just thankful for your work. Where can my listeners find you?
They can find me on my website, www.drlauriemintz.com. But I'm also, and you can find my books on Amazon or anywhere books are sold. And I'm most active social media wise on Instagram with the same handle, Dr. Laurie Mintz.
Amazing. Please, everyone, check out Laurie. Her book's literally life-changing. Become Cliterate and make your husbands become Cliterate too. Have them read the book.
Absolutely.
Well,
Thank you.
bye my feral friends. I'll see you next week. Bye.